So I grew up down south, so forgive me for my sins, but I was an Arsenal fan growing up. So my role model was Arsene Wenger. I'm a massive Arsene Wenger fan, and Thierry Henry. And for some reason Sol Campbell, maybe because he switched his allegiances from Spurs to Arsenal, so I had a big soft spot for him as well. But definitely Arsene Wenger, number one, growing up.
And who inspires you still now?
Well, early days I played badminton, and Gillian Gilkes was one of my favourite players who I looked up to. She played for England. I never got to play for England. Played for Yorkshire, but that was as good as I got. Now, well, I don't know really. There's some very strong women around, and they've certainly come to the fore in the last 20 odd years or so. But yeah, I can't think of anybody really who I would aspire to. But there are some people who... Joanna Lumley, she does a lot of nice things. Yeah. I like her.
My role models growing up were actually probably just your everyday working woman. You know, women that where they weren't as present within, you know, the positions that they're present in now, but women that sort of paved the way for women like me to be able to be included in senior positions. So that's anybody that was in finance, anybody that was in football, teachers, doctors, any females that chose to be able to work and raise a family at the same time. I would say all of those women were my role models.
My role models was my mum. She was very strong in business. She was a manager in a massive newspaper group, which was male dominated. She was strong, she was resilient, and I really inspired to be like that. My other influences was, or still is my husband. So he's been in business since he was 26. He set up his own company and sold it about 4 years ago and made it into a multi-million-pound company. He was extremely passionate, driven, and it kind of inspired me to want some of that. You know, I felt when he was in business, I wasn't able to, because I needed to look after, you know, the house, and I still have a job, but, you know, my main priority was the children. So yeah, massive role models, those two were.
I suppose the only one is like when I'm in as Yorkie, a lot of people think I'm a bloke naturally. Not that it really stops me doing anything, but I just find it quite funny, and I was like, oh, cheers mate. But I've never encountered like any issues being a woman in the York culture. Like, I've always felt welcome. I've never sort of been accused of not knowing as much as anybody else. Like, I think people like respect my appreciation for football. Yeah, I've never really encountered any issues being a woman in football, but I would say that there's always room for more women volunteers, but we have got quite a good group in York, I'd say.
Not many really. I've very rarely been frightened. The one time I was frightened was when we played Arsenal at Bowden Crescent, and that to bring the horses onto the pitch. But generally, it's all been very good. And there's always people who you know around you who look out for you. It's a good family, it's the York City family, and it's worth being in it.
Probably just doubt that women can do both, that they can raise a family and work, make those choices, prioritize. Most people think that it has to be either or, and I've been lucky enough that it hasn't had to be that for me. I've been able to balance both a family life and a professional life.
So, why football? I have always, I've grown up as a tomboy, really. Always played sport. When I was growing up, there wasn't that many opportunities for girls to play football, so I was often... used to do this summer sports camp, this when I lived down in Kent, and I was the only girl on like the boys' sports teams and stuff like that. But I've always just really loved football. I've always tried to play it. I've only recently just stopped playing because I'm getting old. But I've always loved football. Just always something about it. Just loved football. That's my number one sport. I wouldn't say there's many sports that compare to it for me.
Well, I'm from York, born and bred. So, but my dad used to go with my uncle George and my uncle Alan, and I used to stand at the gate saying, "Dad, take me with you. I would like to go with you." And then we used to go swimming at Yearsley Baths, and then one Friday night, instead of going back to Aiken from Yearsley Baths, we called in at Bowden Crescent, and they used to open the big gate about 10 minutes before. So we pulled up and we went in, and that was me hooked. The smell, the atmosphere, it was just wonderful. That would be about 65, 66. We got a season ticket initially for the pop stand when it was standing, and then we moved when they put seats in it to the enclosure in 74. And then while I was working for the club, there were 2 seats that became available in the main stand, and Dad was getting a bit older then and he wanted to sit down, so we were fortunate enough to be getting seats on the front row in the main stand, so that was good. And then my husband took over when my dad died, and he's been coming for 20 odd years now, so he took over Dad's at Bowden Crescent, and now, you know, we come here.
York City is an easy one to answer as to why. You know, it's basically York, isn't it? It's the city, it's Yorkshire, the county, it's the people. When Matthew and I first came to look at York City Football Club, it became very obvious to us very quickly that it didn't have a ceiling. It was a, as lots of people like to refer it to, as a sleeping giant, and we wanted to wake the giant up.
Yeah, so I'm not a massive football fan, but my family are. Our weekends are dominated by watching football on TV, coming to York City matches. I love the passion that York City brings to the community. And I'm hopeful, you know, with the partnership that we have with the urban sponsors, we'll be able to bring our community down at the riverfront together with York City, and we can create something really good.
I just think it's a great campaign. Like, as you say, like the women's sport is growing, the women's football's growing, it's getting more eyes on it. There's always opportunities for girls now. As I said, like when I was growing up, like that wasn't as easy to get. Like, I think probably when I was like 13, 14, that's when I started joining actual all-girls teams instead of having to like train with boys all the time. So the more eyes on it, the more visibility, the bigger the talent gets, the sport grows, the more opportunities for women to make a living out of playing football like boys do. So yeah, I think it's really good.
I think it's wonderful. I think anything that brings people together, girls together, highlighting sport, because I feel sport is really important, whatever sport. I mean, I was lucky enough to play at York RI, and I did table tennis, squash, badminton, trampolining, all sorts, tennis, tried everything. And I just think it's great that once you're in a club or an environment where you've got people who can become friends, colleagues, and a bit like me at York City, I've made friends at York City for life. It's been brilliant.
It's about inclusivity. It's about making sure that all females, whether they are supporters, whether they're working within the football industry, whether they're players, that they all feel safe and they feel respected, and that they know that there's an open door for them to work within that industry. We're very female heavy at York City Football Club, and I want to make sure that all the young ladies, as well as the young men that are working with us, all feel those things, that they feel that they're part of the team, both on the pitch and off the pitch. It's important, and making sure that they feel that it's a place where they can grow and that there are no barriers just because they're females and just because it's generally thought of as a male sport, or has been historically thought of that.
Yeah, so for me personally, it's ensuring that the next generation of girls and women don't ever feel like they don't belong on a football pitch. The Lionesses are amazing, and I think they've brought a lot of inspiration to women. And I feel like everybody should be able to enjoy a game of football without feeling judgment or discrimination.
I just think the more people that you get involved in the club, the more plurality of voices you hear, just helps a club grow. It's just about the more voices that you get, the quality gets better, more people will come down, the better the York City will grow. We're having a really great time at the moment. You can see like more people are coming to the stadium, it's more children, you get childhood fans growing up loving York City. You can only do beneficial things for the club. So yeah.
I've never felt, as you've seen from the photos, any problems being female and watching football. I know they've had problems with other clubs, but at York City, like, it's just a family. Everybody looks out for each other, and I think that's wonderful. And it's to be admired and it's to be treasured.
Because it's really important to understand that there shouldn't be barriers in any industry, no matter what gender you are. So inclusivity from all angles is the most important thing at York City, making sure that everybody's got a wide open door to walk through and to be able to grow.
York City, I feel like it's a club that's very diverse and passionate, and it's vital that everybody feels welcome and valued. Football is for everyone, and I think York City has the power to lead by that example, by showing respect, equality and unity, which is shown in all games.